One. Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ima.
Hello.
Yeah,
And
we're
we
having
are
Thanksgiving.
Yes, we have a Thanksgiving celebrations. Let me introduce everybody. Hello. Oh, don't be camera shy.
No one
Here's
wants to
your
be seen.
sister, and here's her best friend.
It's
Miriam.
fine.
Oh, Miriam. Isn't she pretty? Yes, she is. And here's
Okay.
my and here's some of the relatives here. Hello, everybody. Hello.
All right.
Hello.
Wonderful. We actually have like a lot of people that are here too. We got multiple people from different places.
Hey, you guys can be on a podcast?
Yeah,
Hey,
it's weird because like we're trying to talk to be quiet, but it's hard to hold them
You're on the air, guys. Podcast.
on the air. Yeah,
You're
that's
on
fine.
your behavior, man. This is going international. We even have people who've seen our podcast in Thailand.
Not paying attention. She's drunk.
No, it's not drunk. It's just the ADHD.
Hey, Yona.
Yes.
That's my man.
Yeah, we could see you. How was your day?
Baruch Hashem, very nice. And I tell you, it's wonderful to finish the day like this with.
She lives in Florida?
Yeah, she lives all the way in Florida.
Yeah.
We have a podcast right now. I love how it's just going beautifully because her recording is off.
It's evolving.
It's a slow process. I really jerry-rigged this, and it's a fun little thing. No, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of other people that's going on, a lot of stuff that's happening. We were able to have like a great Thanksgiving pool. We had like over 16 people here. Like sparingly at different periods of time. But it was nice. Yes.
So I want to hear. So I understand. I want to hear about the turkey. It looks good when you showed me the picture of it.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was actually Etsy. She made the turkey. She like cooked it. She marinated it for like 2 weeks, and after that she went ahead and we went and she cooked it from like 10 o'clock in the morning at like 275 all the way to like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh my
god! We pumped it up to 400. It took us a while to get everything taken care of, but
so that's the
good.
secret. So that's the secret of slow cooking over many hours.
No, Ima. The secret is
wait,
Ima.
Yes.
The secret to a
put
good.
That on. Let's see Etsy's face. Let's see your face. Come on. This is the chef. I want to hear about how you make turkey.
Really?
Yeah, too late, honey bun. You open up your mouth, that's what happens.
Yep. Like shit.
Welcome to the show.
How are you?
The family program. Watch your mouth.
You should have everything I know I learned from you. So
I taught you how to drink, I taught you how to gamble, I taught you the finer things in life.
I love you, Ima. So the secret to a good turkey is, first of all, you got to get a big, thick, fat, juicy bird.
Yeah, you
do. Yeah, baby.
Okay.
And then what you do is you double bag it. Although, be careful. Some people say it'll break, but it won't. Double bag it anyway.
Okay, she's out of commission. It's fine. We tried, and that's what matters. The point is, we tried. We also have plenty of other people here, and they're being beautifully quiet.
My question is that you said you marinated it for 2 weeks. I mean, you froze it, marinated?
Yeah.
No, Ima, you defrost the turkey first, and then you take oil and a bunch of different types of spices and brown sugar, and you mash it in the bag so it's all mixed up. And then you put the turkey in it and you make sure it coats the turkey completely, and you tie it off and you stick it in the fridge. Every 4 days, you rotate the turkey so the marinade soaks in an even way. And you just do that for 2 weeks and then cook it.
So it's in the fridge, but not the freezer. It's in the fridge for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's marinating.
It's marinating and it's frozen. So because it's frozen solid, it takes a long time to defrost. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many days it is, but like when you take out a turkey and you want it to defrost, you have to wait like a day and a half. You stick it outside, and it's just it was great because we got everything done. We got all the supplies beforehand. We cooked everything ourselves. It was a very successful turkey day. Did you ever have Thanksgiving when you were a kid? Like what was it like?
Yeah, we went to we would have it at my aunt's house, and my mother was the one who always made the turkey. And and we'd go to my aunt's house, and oh my gosh, all I remember is fighting over the television programs. There's those that wanted to watch the football, and there was those that no, we don't want to watch football, it's boring. But I remember the stuffing. Oh my goodness, the stuffing and the turkey and cranberry sauce. Oh, and my mother's Jello mold.
Oh, wonderful.
The Jello mold with the shredded carrots.
Oh gosh. So it was like a vegetables Jello mold?
It was, yes, she used the
Yeah.
shredded carrots in the Jello mold. I don't know how she did it.
I don't need to.
What kind of how many family members were there at Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh my goodness.
People's feet.
Let me
Like
see. It was
I
me, my parents, my sisters, my cousins, my other cousins. Had to be at least 10, at least. Hi, Ruthie.
Thanks. Just passing by.
So I want to hear about the side dishes now.
Well, we had. I mean, we
Yes,
made
that was all of us.
we made all the side dishes. We went online. We went ahead and Google searched like what are the side dishes of a Thanksgiving dinner, and we had like the casseroles. We had the pies.
They're
We made the rolls. And mashed potatoes. Luckily, everything is getting eaten up, which is great because I hate leftovers. I hate leftovers. It drives me up the wall. I'd rather have everyone eat everything up now in the first place. That's why I made like this quiche with like all the leftover stuff, and people seem to like it too. So that was really good.
What kind of quiche was it?
It was spinach quiche. I had the leftover spinach left. It was leftover spinach, leftover eggs, things like that. Put it all together.
I want to hear about that. I want to hear about. So what did you put in your spinach quiche?
I followed a recipe, but I wasn't really following it. It's more of like they require like cheese and like fresh onions. So I used onion powder and no cheese, and instead of milk, I used almond milk. So I varied with it. But I was speaking to Ruthie, and we were having a whole conversation how like when we were kids, you let us go ahead and like muck around in the kitchen, and you let us make a mess and kind of figure things out. And I think, in my opinion, that's what helped us kind of develop our own ways of being able to cook and be more independent when it came to recipes.
Pie. Tell me about my lemon meringue pie with her.
Ima, do you know anything about Mushki's lemon meringue pie?
Oh, the famous lemon meringue pie store.
I'm too drunk to remember. What are you talking about?
What?
Okay. Oh, where's Mushki? Is she there?
Yeah, Mushki's there. Hold on 1 second.
Moosey. Where's my Moosey?
I'll show you the leftovers of lemon meringue pie.
Where's Mushki? Is Mushki there? Because I want to hear the lemon meringue
she's
pie
hiding.
story.
Wait. She's hiding herself. She's
2 words to Ima. Mince pie.
Mince pie.
Okay, so the mince pie. Oh, I remember Etsy's mince pie. Yeah, Etsy tried.
We're not talking about.
So tell me about 2 different stories. Mushki's lemon meringue. What was up with that?
Okay, so here's the lemon meringue pie story. So what happened was, I was Mushki and I were making.
What's going on?
Mushki and I'm trying to think. I'm thinking back to my memories for the whole story. Mushki and I were making a lemon meringue pie.
Okay.
And so I forgot what happened. She opened up the can and she missed the pie, I think. And then we tried it again with another pie shell. Something else happened.
And we got
throw it out.
in a cell.
Finally, I went back to 7 Mile Market. I got another can of lemon meringue.
I walked in the kitchen to help.
Of lemon pie filling.
Get out.
And I put it in the pie. I put it in the shell.
Twice.
The shell.
Like 2
And,
hours.
I put the
Why? Your one
the
job
meringue-
is to get out of the oven.
meringue
I
put on top.
And then it fell. And then we took it out.
And she starts to walk into the kitchen. And I tell her, no, out.
Yeah.
I said, you jinxed the pie, out. So I put it in the oven. Finally, it's ready. So Mushki says, can I take the pie out? I said, sure. So she opens up the oven. Next thing I know, I hear thump, and I hear, oh, I'm sorry. It's the whole thing fell right on the floor upside down.
Gosh. Oh man. So what was with Etty's mince pie?
Oh God.
Etsy made an attempt to take some ground meat and make a mince
Ema.
pie, and it didn't turn
I
out
can
so
talk-
well.
What?
Etty, what's
Take
that
the
story?
pie
Etty,
now.
what's your story about the mince pie?
Okay.
Well, hold on a second. Wait, Etty wants to comment on your comment.
The story about the mince pie is as follows. I was in 6th grade
Whiskey, please.
and I was obsessed with Victorian Gothic literature. And they constantly talked about eating mince pie. And I thought it was going to be the coolest thing ever. So I decided to make it.
I love this.
And it was so dry. Tati took a bite and gagged. And he's like, it needs more margarine. And he like dumps an entire stick of margarine in it. And it still didn't make it any better. And we just kept trying and trying. And like nobody touched it. And it sat in the fridge. And we kept on trying to get people to eat it for like a week and a half. And nobody would eat it. And Tati tossed it outside to the birds. And even they wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, such is the story.
Pie story.
Okay,
Oh,
so what's your
Been a pie.
Actually, what's your pie
sweetheart.
story?
So every
Oh.
Shabbat, Ema would make blueberry pie or pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie most likely, but
Jack
blueberry pie sometimes.
wasn't a big fan of the pumpkin pie. Yes, it was very nice, Ema, but
Oh, it's delicious. It's just
blueberry
Blueberry
pie.
pie.
Yes, when Joey would
blueberry
come
was
over,
awesome.
when
Joey
Joey would come
Taylor would
over,
come
I would
over.
bring him the blueberry pie. But if it was, I would bring him the pumpkin pie. But if it was blueberry pie, I would bring it down and I would just like eat the whole thing. And with pumpkin, I'd be like, oh, would you like a slice? And I'd serve it. But if it was blueberry pie, I would come back. Shabbat, I'd sleep. Remember, after lunch, I'd go to bed. And then I'd wake up from my nap and then I'd eat the whole pie. And I'd still today, my husband knows if there's a blueberry muffin,
Blueberry pie.
or blueberry pie,
Now
whatever,
you're drunk.
I will, no, blueberry muffin, because he buys me blueberry muffins, but I eat the top and then I give him the bottom. I go,
So generous. Such a generous child.
So
A woman.
is Mindy there? Is Mindy there?
Mendy is not there. He's all the way up in New York.
nope, he's with the boys. I took the girls.
The list of people
We
is
did a,
Saji, Ruthie, Mushki, my
People
friend
wanna be
Yehudis,
no,
Pinky.
we did what is it
I-
called again? We did a,
Shmuel,
what is that
me,
where they're like the
Nadav.
two daughters get split in half and they're like, oh, you
That's
want.
Shlomo
Such
Hamela.
Shlomo Melech.
No.
It was one
And
child.
like one
It's a
child
movie.
lived between
No, it's a
two.
movie and they're twins. It's a movie.
Parent Trap. Are you talking about Parent Trap?
Thank you. See, yeah, we did a parent trap.
Okay, before we were interestingly interrupted.
So you
Ruthie,
you eat the top, but then you told your
you're
son
not the
off.
second
You're
wife.
stealing
I'm not-
all
I'm not.
the
It's just-
cupcakes and eating the tops off of them.
You got it.
so
It's called a hypocrite.
what?
here.
So I'm curious. What were your favorite foods during Thanksgiving when you were a kid?
My mother's chicken and the way my mother made this stuffing.
Benadryl for
It was
God's
the
sake.
same recipe as a potato kugel, only instead of making it into a potato kugel, she would stuff the cavity of a whole chicken with it and bake it in the chicken.
Oh wow, that was your favorite.
That was good. What's good? We have something going on here, some family drama. Let me see. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Okay.
Everybody, what's happening? What's happening? Say hi. Hi, Miriam.
The video is kind of.
Yeah, the family drama.
What's happening?
This is a trainer.
Then that's and hid the evidence.
Tell Ema that talk about the education she gave it.
Hey, Ema, we were talking about
Yeah.
we were talking about the concepts you showed to us when we were teenagers about the understanding of alcohol and maybe the limitations that we had with it and your perspective on it and how you helped get all of us to like be respectful to alcohol and not necessarily overindulge. I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
Okay. The way that I handled alcohol in the house was first of all very, very casual. I didn't make a big deal out of it. Well, most from families, Friday night for kiddish always give their kids like a little taste of wine. Usually the kids a little taste of wine. I've even been by some from families where they'll even let their kids have like a little taste of schnapps, which quite honestly, children's cough medicine has more alcohol than the little teeny little sip of schnapps or wine that that a lot of families give their kids. So when your kids when you guys were teenagers, if you would ask me when 13, 14, maybe 15 years old, you would say, can I have a drink of like whiskey, or can I try this vodka, whatever? I would say, yeah, go ahead, but don't overdo it. And the reaction was always the same.
Yes.
You would say the bracha, take the test thing, and go, no. What's the big deal about this? Because that's the way I learned about alcohol when I was 13. Well, in those days, for some reason, in a lot of the synagogues would have girls bar mitzvah at 13, like the boys. It was a big,
Yeah.
it was a big thing to try to make boys and girls equal at that time. So I remember at my bar mitzvah party, I was 13. I thought, hey, Jewish law, I'm a woman, which actually I was at 12. I didn't realize the real bar mitzvah at 12. But in those days, a lot of us uneducated Jews were doing it, having girls bar mitzvah at 13. I don't know why. So I took a class of vodka, and I started to drink it, and I went, and that kind of like cured me of ever wanting to drink alcohol again. But there were a couple incidences where a couple of your sisters, a couple times, one time in particular, a couple of them one time in particular, overindulged and got miserably sick and ran to the bathroom and were throwing up like profusely. And then there was the time that one of your sisters really she was 16 years old and really got very soused and got so drunk. We had to just drag her home. We put her in bed, and she goes, and she was so drunk. First of all, she runs to the bathroom, she threw up. And then she gets in bed, and she was so drunk, she didn't recognize me. And she goes, oh, my parents are going to kill me. And I said to her, I'm your parent, and I'm not going to kill you. She started to cry. She goes, you're not angry. I said, no, I'm not. I said, you learned a very important lesson about drinking responsibly, and I'm glad you learned it at a young age. And she started to cry and say, oh, you're the best mother in the whole wide world. Then a couple weeks later, she got mad at me, and she told me I was the worst mother in the whole wide world. And I said to her, that's very strange, because just 2 weeks ago, you told me I was the best mother in the whole wide world. She says, when did I say that? I said, you said that when you were drunk. And she said, boy, I must have really been drunk to say that.
Oh, gosh. See, that's the thing where it's like, either way, kids are going to get drunk. They're going to experiment. And when you have this strict environment, they're just going to do it behind your back. And that's why, for my understanding, it's like, I'd rather have them do it in front of me than behind my back. So in case anything happens, if they want to talk to me about anything, then that's fine. I think also
the American attitude towards alcohol is basically an offshoot of the puritanical background, because other countries around the world have a much more relaxed, except for Muslim countries don't also prohibit. Muslim countries totally prohibit alcohol, but in most European countries, their attitude towards alcohol is also very very relaxed and big deal, like so what. And I think it's the main thing to remember, of course, is you don't drink and drive. That's number one. But if you're not going to drive, especially Friday night, we Jews are not going to drive Friday night. So to indulge in alcohol Friday night is okay. Saj, I can't hear you.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I was just talking to you. I just, have it on mute because things are kind of a little rowdy. My other thing I noticed was that like me and my sister, I think Mushki and Pashi, we were talking about how I fixed up the house and whatnot, but we were remembering the energy when we were kids, where it's being like, remember you listening to Motown when we were younger, and you'd be doing the dishes and we'd be playing with toys, in the living room. It'd be very nice and it'd be a lot of fun. And we were just thinking about those moments and how much that means to us and how much we loved it when you were it's funny because I remember seeing this one sign where it's like, you're living your life, but your children's living like their memories. You
Oh
know,
my gosh, that's beautiful. That is where'd you see that sign? That is beautiful.
I saw it on Instagram.
That is such a beautiful. You know, I think that is lovely. You're living up, but your children living them out. Oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true.
So what do you feel like when you were younger? Like what kind of childhood memories that you have, you know, and that like you think of it like when you were a kid that it was just your parents living their life and it was just you living your memories.
My parents had a spare the rod, spoil the child attitude. My mother, being of Polish background, Polish Jewish background, was a great believer in the strap. And she had it hanging in her kitchen. And it wasn't just there for symbolic reasons. It was very much used. So one day when she wasn't looking, I sneaked into the kitchen and I took it out, I took scissors, I took it in the backyard, I cut it up into little pieces and buried it. Then I found out her hand was just as worse.
Did you ever like explain to your parents that like, you know, it hurt you and that what was their reaction?
I hate to say it, it was my father apologized and said, yeah, he realized that he hit us way too much. And my mother, like my mother was kind of into denial. But the thing is this, when I speak to other people in my age bracket, that the sad thing was, it was a whole attitude. It was not just my parents. There was a whole idea at the time that if you didn't hit your children, you know, if you let them get away with too much, you didn't hit them, that they were going to grow up to be out of control and to get into trouble. And it's really, at a young age, you can't let them get away with anything. You really have to lay down the law, and you have to lay it down very firm. Now, hate to say it, whether it was, I guess, you know, like Shalom Muhammad said, spare the rod and spoil the child. I think there are better methods. And on one hand, it's good to see our society has really gotten away from that. I know as a parent, I evolved. When I first started my parenting experience, unfortunately, I was an offshoot, as many of my friends were, of the way that we had been raised. Like my mother-in-law, you know, when the kids when they were little, like 2 years old, they were starting to get into things, and I would just pull them away. And I would lock things up or put things up higher up on shelves. My mother-in-law one time said to me, all you got to do is just smack their little hands. And when in my generation, I mean, I did smack you kids, but as I went on, as I got older, more experienced in my parenting experience, I eventually totally got away from that and used other methods. And but that's what I like about that program, Nanny JoJo. Her discipline methods are very good discipline methods. And unfortunately, and I think we went over this one time in another podcast, and whenever me or any of my friends decide to go to therapists to try to get better parenting skills, all we were told, instead of actually being given real tools, like this is what you do in this situation, this is what's best to do that, all we were told was a whole list of what we shouldn't do, but we were never told what we should do. And the result of that was I saw friends of mine who had kids who were out of control, and the parents were going to therapists to try to get this kid under control. And all the therapists were saying, you must not hit him, you must not scream, you must not. And these kids were growing up to be like Vildachayas. Because my friends weren't being told by the therapist what they should do. They weren't given actual skills. Now, I remember when I was a kid, when it came to taking medicine, it was like, you know, screaming, and how do you want to take it? I'm going like this. You better take it. You better take it, or I'll force it right down your throat. Oh, and I'm, you know, that type of thing. And as a parent, when it came to giving you kids medicine, I realized, hey, if I do that, I'm just defeating my own purpose. Because when you scream at a kid, their throat tightens. They go into fight or flight, and the throat tightens, and then they can't swallow the medicine. Their throat's too tight. So what you have to do is you have to relax them. And so what I would do, I think if you remember, was I would have you pick a sweet drink, a soda, your favorite flavor soda. Now on my day, we didn't have these medicine syringes like they have, which are really great tools. These little medical syringe, the medicine syringes where you just squirt the medicine in the mouth. They did it by spoon. And I remember, boy, that's, having that spoon like right under your nose, being shoved down your throat. Oh God, it's horrible. So, and then I would tell you, now I'm going to squeeze a little bit of the medicine, and you put it on the left side of the child's mouth, because that's where the esophagus is. I said, now I'm going to squeeze a little bit of medicine into your mouth. And when you feel that you want to take a drink, when you've had enough, put up your hand, I'll stop, and you very quickly take a drink of your soda. And so I would squeeze a little bit, you put up your hand, take some soda, squeeze it, and we did this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, you would consume the entire medicine. I remember my mother, for some reason, there was an idea of the time that if you didn't take the whole medicine, and delay drinking water till after the whole medicine was down, you would, the medicine wouldn't be as effective. I don't know why they had that idea. I don't know where it came from, if the doctors told them, but evidently it was totally erroneous. And going back and forth with the medicine and the drink does not lessen the effect. The important thing is to get the whole medicine down in a reasonable period of time, and just a few minutes. And then eventually it got to the point where I would actually hand you this syringe, and you would have to be able to do it yourself and take a little sip. I remember also another incident where I don't know, for some reason, when kids messed themselves up, when kids got wet in those days when I was growing up, for some reason, I had this experience, my friends had the experience where we would get yelled at and our mothers would hit us. And I think back to that and I thought, why? What for? It was only water. Like one incident where I was walking down the block, it was summertime, and these friends of mine, kids being what they are, came over and threw all this water on me. They were playing with the garden hose. They ran out of these. So I went home, and the minute I came in the door, no explanation, my mother just grabbed me, smacked me on the tush, and yelled at me to get upstairs and change, And the same thing happened to Etty when she was little. And I thought, why was my? And so when she came to the door, I said, "Oh, what happened to you?" And she started crying. She goes, my friends came over and squirted me with the hose. It was the same thing. I said, "Oh," so I said, "That's okay. It's only water. Go upstairs and change." I think to myself, there was no reason to, for my mother to get mad and yell and so what? It's only water. Go upstairs, change. Oh, what big deal.
I remember honestly when I was a kid, and it's kind of funny where it's just like when we would make a mess or we would spill something, it would be like you would always say like, "Oh, don't worry, we all make messes, we all make mistakes, it's fine. Now how are we going to clean this up?" And you give me a paper towel or you give me a towel, and like that's funny because like how you taught us like it's okay to like make mistakes, it's okay to screw up.
And I mentioned how messes were handled in my house.
Oh yeah, so Ruthie's house, it was like if she made a mess, it'd be a whole issue. Or when she was in the kitchen, like that's what we talked about. Like when I was in the kitchen, like you would help us, like, make us experiment and whatnot. And that's why I experimented with this quiche I was making. I just learned how to experiment. And in her house, she wasn't allowed to experiment at all. Her mother was like, "Don't go out of the kitchen. This is my kitchen. Don't go here. Don't go near." She'd push him away. She wouldn't want the mess. She wouldn't want to clean up the mess. But it's like, I'm glad that like you let us make the mistakes and get messy, so to speak.
Thank you very much. But there was one time though that I did lose it, and here's what happened. One of your sisters had a sleepover party with a bunch of girls. I think she was in high school. And I come down the next morning and they were all camped out in the living room, sleeping in their sleeping bags. I walk into the kitchen and my milka and fleishika dishes and pots and pans, not only were they mixed up, but the girls had made milka hot chocolate pudding in my fleishika pans. And there they were sitting in my fleishika sink in the middle of all this what had been hot chocolate milka pudding in my face, and I started to, and the kitchen was turned upside down. I started to yell. I lost it. I started to yell and yell. I forgot what I said, but boy, was I screaming. And let's put it this way. After a couple minutes of screaming, I came out of the kitchen. The whole living room was cleared. All the sleeping bags were bundled up. All the girls were dressed and outside waiting for their parents to pick them up. All in 5 minutes.
That's what's so funny, where I think about like when I was younger, I think about how you and Tati reacted, and how when, God willing, I'm gonna have a child and I see my siblings having children, and it's like, you are human, you are a person where eventually you're gonna snap sooner or later, and to forgive yourself and forgive your kids for acting up. I think that's what's so important, because you have these moments where people get mad and angry. You're like, I had a rough childhood. My father didn't give me enough hugs. Blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, so what? Like, get over yourself. It's fine. Or like, whatever. It is what it is.
It's not that my childhood was, I was thinking about my childhood days. As a matter of fact, today I was thinking about it. And yeah, there were some good times. There were some good memories. Like I remember, when I was very little, I think I was 3 or 4 years old. I remember my father, or 5, I think it was 3 or 4 or 5. One of the things my father would do is he would lay down on the floor in the living room, and he would pick me up, and he would give me a ride, like back and forth and back. Like he would be like a rocking horse. You go back and forth and back and forth. And that was a lot of fun. I remember my father and I taking walks and having some very nice conversations. There were, wasn't all misery, but I think my parents, in many respects, were between a rock and a hard place. They had just come away from their upbringing, which was very rough, very, very European, very, like I said, the strap was the rule. And they were coming out of that environment into like a 1950s, Dr. Benjamin Spock had just published his book, and into the area of like a more type of like, try to understand a little more, try to be a little more patient. Don't go for the strap, try to keep away from that type of punishment. But I remember though when I was in college in the 70s, when you had all these campus demonstrations that were going on against the Vietnam War, and one of the things that a lot of people in the media were saying was that they felt the problem with my generation was that our parents had been too permissive, that they should have smacked us more, or they should have been stricter with us. And that's why, as college kids, that we were rebelling, and that we were, having all these like demonstrations against the war, that we were spoiled, and this is why we were acting like this.
I mean, you have to ask yourself, was there ever like a generation that wasn't rebellious from their parents? Like, that's so stupid to think that way. It's like, what was there ever a time that like teenagers and young adults didn't rebel and become angry communists? Like, that's just what they do. But like, stupid is as stupid does. That's fine. And then they eventually become older and more conservative. That's just the natural reaction to things.
I think you got a very good point there. I think you got a very good point. Saying. What is Pesci saying? Come on, what did she say?
She was talking about the Osama bin Laden letters. Did you remember that? We talked about it last week.
Oh, something? I'm wondering how authentic those so-called letters really are. And it's interesting how they find them now. Yeah.
Ema, those were published in like 2001, 2002. It's just now being resurfaced via TikTok, and that's what it was talking about. But that's just the way it works. It's just, that's how the world works. And teenagers and young adults are idiots, and they're useful idiots to various causes, and that's just how it works.
You heard about the forged book, Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Okay, that obviously was a forgery. It was totally fake, and it was written in such a way, though, that Tsar Nicholas believed it, and then did not put forth the more democratic rules that he was going to, and so you'd be surprised. I was listening to a program once where these anti-Semites were calling this particular program. This is like back in the 80s, 90s, whatever, and they actually believed, even to that, even though it was proven to be a forgery, and they believed it. They actually read the book, Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and they were putting it forth in this talk show. And the talk show host, who was very decent, very pro-Israel, pro-Jewish, was trying to point out to them that this book is a forgery. It's you're buying into something that is a total forgery. And these people who were anti-Semitic just weren't buying it. It's like they say, like a lot of the leftists, don't confuse me with facts.
See, that's the thing. Actually, I literally just saw an interview on Skynet BBC with this Israeli representative, and this interviewer, like, with no joking aside, was like, do you think it's appropriate that you're trading these Hamas terrorists for these, hostages? And do you feel like that really shows like you care about Palestinian life? Like, is that really what you mean? And the guy's face like widened, like, are you that freaking stupid? Are you that freaking ridiculous? And it's like Jews all across the world are just done with this placating bullshit, which is going across the world, where they're like, maybe if I appease the Goyim now, they'll like us. Like, it's just utter trash.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's like the abused wife. If you stop to think about it, oh, maybe if I make a nicer dinner, maybe if I try not to upset him. And the reality is that your abusive husband is crazy, and he's going to find some reason to hit you, no matter what it is.
I was listening to this one conversation somebody recorded. It was a gentleman talking to another from Yid in Lakewood. The guy from Lakewood was telling him how it's preetzus that he's showing these hostages pictures of these women, how it's inappropriate, and talking about how he doesn't support Israel and all this stuff, and how his words was, we are in Gullus, and as Yidden in Gullus, we should be quiet.
Wow, what an idiot.
Yeah, well, that's what you get. We're a bunch of Gullus mentality.
Yeah. I can't stand the Gullus mentality. And my mother was with us that time when we heard Ariel Sharon at Towson State speak. And I think we had this on another podcast, but anyway, I'm going to tell the story anyway. So we were saying it was during the time of the war with Lebanon, and the Israeli tanks were right outside Damascus. And it was when the Rebbe told them to take Damascus, and they didn't. And so we were asking him, why didn't you take Damascus? And he took off his glasses and smiled at us and said, what would the Goyim think? Well, the whole room erupted into yelling and profanity, and we don't give a blankety blank what the Goyim think of us. What is your problem? And we all started yelling at him like all at once. And after the talk, when I was walking home, I've had my mother's there with me. I brought her to the talk, and my mother said to me, she says, I can tell that your generation has, she didn't say gullus, but she could tell that my generation was coming out of this gullus, like this oppressive attitude, because she said, when he said, what will the Goyim think? She agreed with him in her mind. She agreed with him. But when we all started screaming and we didn't agree so vehemently, she realized, hey, that we're out of this what do the Goyim think mentality. We're already thinking independently. And I think that was maybe that was the problem with the Israeli government. Why after the 6 Day War, they kept giving back land. Because when I was in college, me and my Jewish friends, it was like, what the heck is the Israeli government doing? Are they out of their minds? They don't know how to be winners. And I think that might have been part of it. They still had the Gullus mentality. They were afraid of what the Goyim would think.
Yeah.
They don't want the Goyim to see us as oppressors. I don't care. Let's put it this way. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, so we might as well do. And all I can say about the Goyim that think that we own all the banks and we're out to take over